Sector 0 is a region of extremely low temperatures, where organisms of all types have had to adapt to the cold. Beginning on the ice floats above the shallows, a curious life form makes its home in this region where land meets the sea. Huddled together on a float is a flock of waddling penguins. Penguins are small predatory fauna, which aren't the most graceful on land. When a penguin dives underwater, however, the creature's unique retractable tail allows them to twist through the currents with remarkable grace. Despite their cute appearance, penguins are carnivores, and their beaks open horizontally, revealing a rather alarming set of teeth. In their body shape and general behavior, penguins show a high degree of convergence with Earth penguins, with both species adapting to an Arctic environment in similar ways. And on any ice float with penguins, you will also find penglings, the juvenile form of penguins who never stray far from their parents. Even more than adults, infant penglings are extremely awkward on land, but what they might lack in overall balance, they make up for in endless enthusiasm. And while penglings might possess the same, somewhat alarming fanged mouth, they're remarkably docile creatures, perfectly content with being gently lifted up. As nice as it is to briefly hold a baby pengling, however, I don't want to disrupt their natural routines. As we dive into the polar waters, a shallow, surprisingly warm region awaits just under the ice floats. The landscape of this coastal sea is dominated by coral bridges, great arches formed by rapidly growing polyps that can exceed 600 feet, or 200 meters in length. Bioluminescent blue barnacles grow on the coral's underside, which a scan suggests are actually separate species taking advantage of the bridge's structure. But why would the coral bridges grow into such strange, arcing shapes? The answer lies in a phenomenon known as thigmotropism, a pattern of growth observed in earth plants in response to touch stimulus. Thigmotropism is what allows vines to wrap around and climb up poles, and it's the likely reason the great coral bridges always grow from one rock to another. Just beyond these coral bridges, we encounter an Arctic peeper, who watches for predators with its massive yellow eyes. Relatives of the common peeper in the tropical seas, Arctic peeper's scales have evolved a white hue for better camouflage against the ice. Other familiar herbivores also swim here, like the translucent bladderfish and the vibrant hoopfish. Together, these species form an important base in the Sector 0 food chain for the larger, less familiar creatures that lurk under the ice. Swimming northwards, I've reached a region known as the Sparse Arctic. This entire biome is situated under thick ice shelves and receives little direct sunlight. On the underside of these icebergs, hazardous ice formations known as brinicles protrude like jagged fangs. Highly unstable, brinicles frequently shatter and crash to the ocean floor. Yet as foreboding as the sparse Arctic seems, some truly remarkable species thrive here. This odd-looking fellow is called a brine wing. With its rotund form and beak-like mouth, it gives the impression of an ineffectual herbivore. But the brine wing is a powerful predator. To hunt, it unleashes a rapid-fire torrent of supercooled saline solution that freezes in the water, and can encase its prey in ice. A scan suggests that the brine wing uses a highly specialized bladder to produce this supercooled brine from the surrounding salt water. As unusual an adaptation as this might seem, the earth archerfish can shoot down insects using water jets launched from their specialized mouths, and are remarkably accurate. Other species in the sparse Arctic have very different survival strategies, like the enormous Titan holefish, a slow-moving herbivore with a strange hole in the center of its body. The Titan holefish is a relative of the tiny, guppy-sized tropical holefish, and is so much larger than its cousin you can actually swim through the hole at its center. But what is the purpose of this hole? A scan suggests the gel-like interior is lined with hundreds of eggs, but curiously, the egg's DNA doesn't match that of the holefish. The mystery of the eggs is revealed when I spot a tiny life form swimming alongside the holefish. Soon many others join in, swarming like a bee colony around a hive. These are symbiotes, small predators that have evolved to make their nests in the hull of the Titan Holefish, and in turn defend the Holefish at all cost, and even provide it with food. This highly cooperative lifestyle is an example of a mutualistic partnership, one of the few on planet 4546b. As a result, the Titan Holefish has evolved to be remarkably unintelligent, swimming forward on impulse, fully trusting the complex ecosystem that supports its every need. Just beyond the sparse Arctic, the bare sand gives way to the teeming Arctic kelp forest. Here, creepvine plants sway in the polar current, casting light into the depths with their bioluminescent seeds. These creepvine plants are close relatives of the green variety which grow in the warm waters of the tropics, although the chemical composition of the polar waters has turned them a pale yellow. Among the fronds, familiar fish like the boomerang flit between the leaves, and some very unfamiliar fish swim here also. These extremely bizarre life forms are called spinnerfish, and have perhaps the most peculiar method of swimming ever conceived. Using 3 pairs of siphons along the side of their body, spinnerfish jet along like living water wheels. At a glance, its bizarre body plan somewhat resembles the larval form of an ocean sunfish, but ultimately the spinnerfish is one of a kind. Speaking of one of a kind, I soon spot an incredible life form. I'm just about to scan it when it swims in and snatches the scanner right from my hands. Frustrated, I give chase, and find the creature occasionally looks back and waves the stolen scanner to mock me. Thankfully, I'm able to outmaneuver it and snatch my tool back. Finishing the scan, I discover this creature might be annoying, but it's truly remarkable, with both a developed brain and finger-like appendages for object manipulation. It's called a sea monkey, a nickname it shares with Earth brine shrimp. Unlike those sea monkeys, however, the sea monkey of planet 4546b seems about as intelligent as an actual primate, meaning it's the smartest life form I've found in Sector 0. Given time, the sea monkeys might have an incredible future trajectory. I just hope they evolve to be less annoying. With the kelp forest thoroughly charted, it's time to regroup on the surface. Sticking my head above the water, however, I find the shallows are engulfed in a dangerous polar storm. Looking around, I realize the penguin flock from earlier might be in serious danger. Upon arriving at their ice float, however, I find the penguins unbothered by the weather, simply huddling for warmth and waiting out the rain. Truly, penguins are intriguing creatures. With the sun thankfully returning, it occurs to me that there's still much I have to learn about penguin flock dynamics, but I don't want to disrupt them further with my presence. Time for some innovation. I've devised an alternative, less conspicuous method of observation. This machine is my spy pengling, and it will hopefully be able to keep an eye on the penguin flock with its hidden cameras while I continue my expedition across Sector 0. I'm uncertain if the penguins will be fooled into accepting this robot as one of their own, but the only way to find out is to test it. As inconspicuously as I can, I deploy the robot. Taking control via an auxiliary remote, I navigate the spy pengling into the midst of the flock. It's not a perfect disguise, but the penguins don't seem particularly bothered by its presence either. Though it's unlikely this robot is fooling them, it doesn't appear to disrupt their natural behavior. I'll leave the flock under its watchful eye, and head deeper into the unknown regions. Even further out to sea, the mysterious lily pad islands hang in the water, seemingly by miraculous means. These floating chunks of rock are held up by giant lily pads, an enormous type of plant that defines this ecosystem. Giant lily pads are indeed so large that it's possible to stand on their leafy tops without fear of sinking. But it's the bizarre life that swims in the lily pad shadows that makes this region truly unique. Take, for example, the hilariously named newtfish. With its colorful markings and innocent, beak-like snout, the newtfish can easily pass as a herbivore, but any fish that makes that mistake is soon swallowed whole. The newtfish's beak is in fact a stretchy, extendable lip lined with barb-like teeth it uses to envelop prey. This kind of extendable mouth somewhat resembles that of the sarcastic fringe head of the Pacific Ocean. Best to keep an eye out. But there are bigger predators here than the newtfish. The brute shark is an aggressive predator that scours the depths with its ghostly white eyes. With huge fangs and a massive bony jaw, they feed on just about anything they can catch. Like many earth sharks, they prefer to attack via ambush from above or below. The only good news is that while they're deadly, brute sharks aren't particularly fast. Still, if I don't keep my distance, I might be on the menu. Closer to the surface, I spot a remarkably colorful life form. Swimming nearer, the edges of my vision blur, and I feel just a little dizzy. Has the sky always been that color? Everything feels floaty for a while. Eventually, the effect wears off, and with a clear head, I understand what just happened. That life form, known as a lily paddler, possesses the unique ability to disorient would-be attackers with the mesmerizing patterns on its colorful appendages. It's an impressive defense, and a vital one for a creature like a lily paddler, which is otherwise quite vulnerable. I just wish it didn't make my head hurt. A shadow passes overhead. Just above me, a whale-sized leviathan opens its mouth to a tremendous size and swallows an entire school of fish in just a single gulp. This is a glow whale, and while they're highly effective at feeding on small fish, they're thankfully quite gentle. At almost 100 feet, or 30 meters in length, they're the first Leviathan-class organism I've encountered in Sector 0, and a highly intelligent one. A scan of the glow whales indicate they possess many organs that are capable of bioluminescence, most notably around the corners of their eyes and the ends of their horns. Careful not to startle it, I brush a glow whale under its eye, causing a faint glow. It's difficult to interpret whether this is a random response or an attempt to send a message. In any case, the glow whale seems content with my presence. As I watch it rejoin its pod, I wish I could stay with this spectacular lifeform for longer. But before the sun sets, there's one last region I need to chart. Underneath layers of snow and ice, there are telltale signs that a permanent landmass makes up a portion of Sector 0. Dry land is so scarce on this ocean planet that it's impossible to guess what sorts of life forms might live farther inland. Passing through a narrow canyon, I find strange plant-animal hybrids that seem to be growing from the walls. These are thermal lilies, organisms that spend most of their time tracking the sun and absorbing its energy, but also turn to track my movement as I pass. A scan suggests they aren't dangerous, and thanks to the thermal radiation they've absorbed, they're actually a welcome source of heat in Sector 0's frigid interior. Still, it's unsettling the way they follow me. Beyond the canyon, a snowy landscape far too vast to traverse on foot awaits. Luckily, I have an alternate method of transportation. This is a snow fox, a hoverbike designed for land-based expeditions. Zooming over the Arctic terrain, I find it's got a bit of a kick. At these speeds, I should be able to chart this region fairly effectively. A short time later, I spot a hairy creature in the distance. The question is it friendly? Not friendly. Putting the snow fox in reverse, I discover the creature gives chase with alarming speed. After several near misses, I back away to a safe distance. That quadrupedal predator was a snow stalker. And while it nearly sank its claws into me, I can't help but be excited at the discovery of a terrestrial land animal on planet 4546b. With its white fur and imposing bulk, the snow stalker has converged on a body plan similar to Earth polar bears. I'm curious about the lineage of this land animal. A brief analysis reveals, surprisingly, that the snow stalker is actually a distant relative of the fully aquatic stalker I encountered in the tropical region. While these two species diverged a long time ago, there are still some telltale signs of their relation in the shape of their head and their dorsal spines. A fascinating genetic ancestry. Speaking of which, a short way off from the snow stalker, I spot what appears to be its cub playing in the snow. Just a fraction of the size of its parent, this baby snow stalker is far less aggressive than an adult. Well, mostly. Trekking onward, I reach an ice sheet marked by jagged, towering ice formations. This region is known as the Arctic Spires, and it's home to a giant. A huge head bursts from below the ice. Seconds later, a massive serpentine leviathan rises into the air, and nearly takes me out with a swipe from its massive horn. This terror of the frozen plains is an ice worm. At over 300 feet, or 90 meters long, it's almost twice the size of a Reaper Leviathan, and by far the largest creature I've seen in Sector 0. Its glowing horn is superheated through an exothermic chemical reaction, allowing it to melt through the very ice its prey is standing on. Time to make a fast exit. Speeding away on my snow fox, I spot the snow stalker and its cub from earlier fleeing beside me. We barely make it to safety. With creatures like the ice worm around, I think I might put off doing more field work till tomorrow. While the sun sets overhead, I check in to find my spy pangling has become a veritable member of the flock, and has done an excellent job keeping an eye on its feathered companions. Together, my pangling bot and I sit and watch the gorgeous Sector 0 sunset, and with the night comes a final surprise. The sky is lit up by a dazzling aurora similar to the aurora borealis in the northern latitudes of Earth. On our planet, these northern lights are a result of disturbances in the magnetosphere caused by solar wind, and we can theorize that they have the same origin on planet 4546b. It's a beautiful, imposing display that can make one feel a little isolated in the universe. But with my spy pangling beside me, I don't feel truly alone. A transmission interrupts my thoughts.